Welcome back, everybody. My name is Phil Marriott. We Need to Do Something. That's the film we're talking about today. And happy Halloween from one Halloween lover to another. Here he is, Paul Joseph.
Hi.
So the movie today, we've both seen it. We're going to review it. It's called We Need to Do Something. Let's just share a few details about it. The director is Sean King O'Grady. It stars Sierra McCormick, Pat Healy and Vinessa Shaw. Probably best described as a psychological horror based on a novella of the same name by Max Booth III. The screenplay and the novella completed before the pandemic. So obviously, you know, post-pandemic, a lot of things change. This could be maybe something people could identify with on a certain level, but it's all to do with Melissa and her family seeking shelter from a very powerful storm, a tornado, in the most secure room of the house, which is the bathroom. Now, we've seen a lot of films that kind of explore similar things with that kind of one-room scenario.
It's interesting. I think it works on it. Well, I don't know whether it works on, but it puts itself on various different levels, probably most successfully as a exploration of people being stuck in a situation that's actually fairly plausible. And what do? They take shelter in the bathroom, and then they basically get trapped in there because of something that's happened in the storm, meaning they can't get out of it. And they don't really know what's going on in the outside world. They don't know what anything is. And, you know, they're slowly trying different options, and you know they don't necessarily have the most healthy dynamic as a family anyway. In that situation, it reminded me of films like Adrift, which is the one about all the people who are on a fancy yacht and just jump off and then realize that the ladder's not down and they can't get up, and it's like, oh well, what would you do? The tension of that is really good, and the kind of like the slow passing of time and how they do. But then perhaps some of the other elements that they put in about maybe explaining what is behind things, it definitely gets weird.
Sierra McCormick, I don't know whether you saw her in American Horror Stories recently. I think she was in 3 of the episodes.
I thought she was excellent in that. I thought, you know, very someone of real promise, because she's pretty much in those. I've only seen the first 2 episodes she's in, which is like a double part of American Horror Stories, and she's kind of the lead in it, and she carries it really well. She's a really engaging young actor. And
she feels like, you know, a genuine kind of, I don't know whether it's a modern term anymore, but emo kid, that kind of goth emo kid type, which I think, you know, does seem really genuine as well. You know, she gives a believable performance. Pat Healy, I thought, again, you know, really good performance as the quite maniacal father. Should we start with what we liked about this film? Again, the performances I thought were one of the strong points.
The performances were great, and I think the sort of single location tension. God, do we talk about the snake? Like once a snake gets in, that's terrifying. And you know, it's a snake in a room. It's not on a plane. It's in a room. It's a snake in a bathroom. And there's one very sort of close up on a snake doing something. It's either amazing CGI or amazing snake acting. There's definitely moments of real terror.
Give it an Oscar.
Yeah, give that snake an Oscar. There's a boy in it, a child who's really good as well, and really sweet. And there's that kind of like how an 8-year-old boy would approach the sort of like, it's a bit of an adventure of all being locked in and kind of whatever. Again, another very squeamish moment where the dad literally forces him through a crack in the door to get out and see what's going on.
That's quite brutal. That's quite disturbing, that moment.
Even though he's a little lad, he's not going to get through it. And then there's also something outside that's a bit snarly and bitey, which I believe, looking at the credits, is voiced by Ozzy
Osbourne. So this is what I can't understand, because this movie cost $13,000 to make. It's a very low budget movie. Yeah. Where did he get the money for that? I mean, yes, it wasn't a very big role. It was just literally one line.
Actually, there's no way you would hear it and go, oh my God, that's Ozzy Osbourne. It's just really something for the promo and for the credits, really, isn't it? You're like, oh, okay. You probably just recorded it down the phone as a favour or something.
It had that kind of dark comedy feel about it, but it did seem a bit confused about what genre it really was.
There's a whole plot line about the lead character and a relationship she had with her best friend, who there's a romantic thing as well. I always think flashback can be overused in films, and particularly when there's a whole plot. It's not necessarily punctuated to relate to what's going on in the film, but what that does do is offer an explanation through about some action they have taken that perhaps has a supernatural element that may be behind all the stuff that's going on behind the door. That whole thing, it's a little bit weak. We're spoiled for choice when you think about stuff like American Horror Story and different things where there's such smart storytelling about things. I think quite a lot of screen time is given to that, and then there isn't really the payoff. The other thing is there's also this kind of like trapped in a room thing. There's then this supernatural girls doing something that might cause something to happen, craft type thing. I'm not mentioning the W word, pointy hats. Green faces, big noses. And then there's the terror outside, the snarling thing at the door. Is it going to get in? That kind of thing. And I think maybe the weighting of those three different elements isn't quite right. To be honest, I could probably cut the whole flashback storyline part of it. But, I guess part of this is, it's a fairly simple premise. And I sometimes think filmmakers are trying to make more out of you mentioned that it's interesting you said it's a novella, not a novel. It's interesting that when you said about the budget, I do think there's a lot that's very admirable in the way the film's made and how it looks and the stylization of it. It gets to some of those almost sort of Suspiria, Giallo, Argentino type, very very overlit scenes, kind of like lots of red, and there's some really good arty stuff the director's doing. And I do wonder whether this is one of those films that is a sort of calling card for someone who's then going to perhaps get hired to do a much bigger film with a better script, and we will see something good, much better from this director, because it definitely shows promise. Towards the end of the film, it ends with full-on gore, violence, blood, some of it almost fantastical, and sort of dreamlike. And again, that's a real big shift from the sort of like trapped in the room thing that, again, possibly isn't done that successfully, but, it looks good and it has an impact. I think it's also one of those films that you could also imagine, give it, I'm always like, with everything, I'm like, give another 6 months on a script, get it tighter.
For me, it wasn't effective most of the way through the film's running time, because you're meant to feel that kind of sense of dread, that sense of claustrophobia, and for me, it didn't work. And also what kept throwing me out of that was when they kept going to that door, it did seem like a small studio set. I think this was, for me, that kept drawing me out. It kept pulling me out of that experience, and I wanted to feel a bit more claustrophobic. A lot of the time I just felt irritated because there was a lot of screaming, there was a lot of tension. I wanted to throttle them. Because they were doing my head in.
And I guess the fact that, our heroine is by default kind of surly, emo, not very, very into anything, it makes it a bit, as much as she's a great actor and does it really well, you don't necessarily root for that character above anyone else.
Exactly it. Did you feel like you liked the characters? I didn't feel like I liked any of them.
No.
Apart from the boy, the son,
the boy.
like you say, was... And his name is John James Cronin.
He was great, and there are some, there's some really brutal stuff that happens that you're like, that some films wouldn't go near there. And I just kind of think it's probably not enough meat on the script and the story to stretch out that long.
Along with that frustration of, that anxiety that they were feeling that was rubbing off on me in a bad way, was the fact that the audience was kind of asked to use their imagination, and to a certain extent I gave up after a while, because I just kept thinking, why am I having to do all the hard work? I'm meant to be entertained by this, and to a certain point I wasn't entertained as much as I wanted to be.
There's also a little bit of a mismatch in terms of like, if we're meant to go along with what seems to be the explanation to what's happened, which is the meddling in the occult that one of the characters has been involved in, if you follow that story, the outcome that might have created, you would think maybe that's created like a zombie type thing or something, but not this kind of like what seems like an apocalypse that's happened outside.
I felt like it kept going from genre to genre. It's like you had these really serious flashback scenes with the girlfriend, with the daughter's girlfriend, and then you went from something that was really high tension, anxiety, and then you went from something that was just out and out, over the top, ludicrous comedy farce.
Almost bit slapstick, yeah. And I guess the interesting thing is, quite often the limitations of budget and situation can bring great things, and it could be a choice that it's a closed room thing, etc., but you do wonder whether there's an itching for, were there more money and more time, that there's then a resolution that happens outside of the room, and a bit of a sort of battle and something like that, because it kind of sets itself up for that and then doesn't quite go there. And I think, I think we talked when we were talking about one of the films we watched recently, the one with the monster baby or whatever. But I'm a fan of where, even if the explanations ludicrous that the filmmaker makes it definite that in this world, this is what's happened. So you think about films like The Witch, Midsommar, films like Hereditary, they don't leave that ambiguity at the end. You know, it's like, wow, that is it. And it is happening. You know, in The Witch, you know, you find out, without giving spoilers, but something that has been questioned all the way through is out and out shown to be a reality.
Perhaps it would have worked better as a short rather than a feature.
I have to confess, I'm not a huge fan of shorts in general. I would say, you know, in terms of the release of, you know, the sort of like the level of releasing it's at and the audience it's aiming for, you know, there's so much horror coming out. I would say above average and worth a look, but probably partly of curiosity rather than particularly being gripped. You know, I don't know whether it's a film that you would, you know, a lot of people would like horror for their Friday night popcorn, glass of wine, jump scares, thrills, bit of a roller coaster. I don't think it's that. I think the tone can be too static at times. But I think for fans of horror, it's worth a look.
On the plus side, you know, the performances are good. I like Sierra McCormick. I liked the son, who was played by, who did I say it was? John James Cronin. He was really good. Yeah, there was a lot, you know, from a story point, there was a lot that I felt was lacking. Although, admittedly, like you say, on a budget of $13,000, they've done an okay job, I think. And there were some interesting things in there. But for me, it didn't really deliver as much as I was hoping it was going to. 2 stars for me.
I'll give it a 3.
Thank you, Paul, for your expert opinions. As always, I'm sure there are going to be more reviews that we can do soon. Because, of course, this is Halloween season. Although, you know, we're a bit late because this is Halloween weekend now. But yeah, I'm sure there are going to be a few more horror films before Christmas.
There's always a steady stream of horror coming out.
Is there anything that you're looking forward to seeing that's about to come out? Are you?
I haven't seen the new Halloween film yet.
I enjoyed it.
I need to get onto that.
It has divided people. I mean, it's really one for the Halloween fans, but, you know, a lot of people have been very sniffy about it.
The Guillermo del Toro Antlers.
Yeah.
It's not, I think it's not directed by him, it's maybe produced. That looks quite interesting. Oh, and of course, we saw the trailer has dropped for the next Scream film. You know, I'm always up for a Scream film.
Yeah, the trailer that looks very familiar because it does seem like it's the original Scream movie, doesn't it?
It looks like it's almost like a reboot within the same world. So it does have the original characters, although, you know, and this is no misogyny or body shame, whatever here, but like Courtney Cox, the sort of surgery that she's had, I think if they do another film, her face will be the Scream mask.
Ouch!
They already did it with the last Scream film. They did a really good job of kind of like almost rebooting it because they had it within the world of Sydney, but then the focus, the central character in peril was a relative of hers, and she was there as part of it. And then they did something very, very clever at the end. I always think it's a good sign when there's been a big gap between films. It means that obviously there's been work and thought gone into it. It's not like they're banging it out. So, you know, and that genre has always, that series has always led in the genre of being riffing on what is happening at the time in horror and entertainment anyway. So I would imagine something very smart's going to come out of it.
Yeah, we need to get on it. Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, it is going to be, you know, something that will deliver after so much wait. Like you say,
is there anything you're particularly looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to seeing. I don't know if you saw it when it first came out. The Night House has just gone up on Disney, so I'm going to be watching that this weekend. It's kind of like this creepy thriller. I think I need a bit of atmosphere, like an atmospheric horror film this weekend.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the fact that American Horror Story is now on Disney Plus, but like week by week. I think I'm maybe an episode behind, but normally I've only watched that when it comes on Netflix, and I kind of watch it within a week. I've seen the first episode and it looks great so far. And, you know, it's got Sarah Paulson,
she's
you know,
always
Evan
great.
Peters, Francis Conroy, you
I
know,
love
Macaulay Culkin popping up already. Yeah, exactly.
Lots to get through. Thanks as always, Paul. Your review is always brilliant on this channel, and you are a regular boy on film now.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Well, happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween to you as well. And thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.